Hey there Cosmic Warriors, and welcome back to another video. So in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the anger, turn-ons and motivations of the Mars in Capricorn. Now, this series is actually to do with a series that I planned on starting a good while ago, so back in December. So I asked you, my subscribers, to answer some questions in relation to your Mars sign. And so in this video, we'll be discussing the Mars in Capricorn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the questions that I asked in the description box below, just for reference and also just to remind yourselves, because I'm aware that it was a good while ago. And I'm also going to post the names of you individuals who took part. I just want to give you credit in this respect, and also thank you. Thank you so much to all of you who decided to take part by taking the time to answer these questions, because not only are you helping further my research when it comes to astrology, but you're also helping everybody here with their own learning within this community. However, before we do dive into today's video, certainly make sure that you give this video a like if you like it. Also, make sure to subscribe if you have not already, and to, of course, click that little bell icon so that you can keep yourself updated with further content from myself. And one more quick thing to mention, and that is that I have some merchandise pieces that are available. So if you're interested, then go to the link in the description box. Okay, so with all of those introductions out of the way, Mars in Capricorn, let's do this. Okay, so to begin, what is it that makes you Mars and Capricorns angry? And what types of people specifically make you angry? And some key things that really stood out to me is that you're most likely angered by lazy people, by people who cut corners, and by people who slack off. And I can see how these things would anger you, Mars and Capricorns, especially given that you're such hardworking, such dedicated people. You're not the types to skip necessary steps when learning something new, for example, and you typically keep yourselves busy and occupied with plenty to do. So it's this whole attitude of time is money, and so therefore you like to make good use out of your time. You prefer to use time in a valuable way rather than in a frivolous way. And so when you see others not making good use of their time, maybe that's kind of annoying. It's kind of frustrating. Then again, perhaps you find it really difficult to use the off switch yourself. So perhaps you feel guilty whenever you're not doing something important, for example, or maybe you find it difficult to wind down and simply relax. And so in this respect, you might have a lot of built up tension within your shoulders. I mean, I know myself. I have Mars and Capricorn, and anytime I go for a massage, which is not often, by the way, I would get told that about my shoulders. I'm very, very, very tense. And just even the way I kind of go like this sometimes, my body language just shows it. Still though, I'm gathering from this survey information that people who don't work hard enough, or people who don't contribute to society on purpose, well, they do not get your respect. Oh, and if someone dares waste your time, you'll become pretty angry. Likewise, if they waste your money, you will not be happy. Yeah, you Mars and Capricorns may strongly dislike it when others get in the way of your valuable time and money and resources, and you might also get angry at yourselves whenever these things are impacted by a mistake or by an accidental error or action that you make. And to be honest, mistakes in your eyes are the worst. You probably hate making mistakes, especially mistakes that are huge, because to you it's like I should have known better than that. I should have held myself to a higher standard. And you know, it's funny because, as I say, I have Mars in Capricorn, and my father would say growing up, there's no such thing as accidents. And when he did something accidental, he would be so hard on himself. My father was quite the punisher, let's just say that, towards his shortcomings and towards his failures. And I can't help but feel as if I picked up on these things from him. Maybe you Mars and Capricorns can relate to what I'm saying. Though essentially, perhaps failure is like the worst feeling. You know, the feeling of failure is just horrible to Mars and Capricorns. But then I also think that as you age and as you mature, you learn to accept your failures. You learn to accept your mistakes. And I think such realizations come about when you recognize that failures they can lead to success. That anytime we make mistakes, we can learn from them. However, the key here, I suppose you could say, is not to dwell in this doom and gloom, depressive, pessimistic way whenever you do mess up. It's about moving forward and taking responsibility for your choices and for your actions, which again, I think you do grow to learn such things. However, just a side note here, just to sidetrack for a moment, is it that you were severely punished for making a mistake or an error growing up? Or did you grow up with this notion that you can't make a mistake because of how bad it would make you appear? I just wonder what went on there within your upbringing, within your home, your family home. I mean, was it that your parents were quite hard on you in this way? Or maybe you weren't allowed to make a mistake because of how it would make your parents look specifically? Perhaps being obedient and playing by the rules was strongly taught here. Or perhaps speaking back and challenging authority was quickly shut down. Then again, maybe for some of you, you have a real issue with authority. So maybe you can't stand it when others try to tell you what to do. Maybe you strongly get pissed off by bossy people, by demanding people, especially people who don't have your respect. And perhaps in your eyes, respect must be earned, not expected. Perhaps you also grow to be your own authority, and so you will most likely not tolerate it when others try to manage you, especially if said others are not qualified to do so. It's like this whole attitude of, well, who made you the boss? And oh my gosh, when people try to talk about a certain subject in this boastful, prideful way that they know nothing about, it's like, all right, get off your soapbox, Jessica. Therefore, maybe you prefer to reach out to experts and professionals when it comes to particular issues and discussions and educational programs, etc. Yeah, you know how to spot a fake from a mile away. And so people who are superficial, arrogant, patronizing, obnoxious, ignorant, people who are liars, manipulators, attention seekers, you can't stand these types of people. In fact, you probably can't stand to be in the same room as these types of people. Most likely, you will slowly and quietly distance yourself from them. Oh, and another thing I picked up here as well. When you Mars and Capricorns are accused of something that you didn't do, that will piss you off so much, because in your eyes, you are dutiful, you are honest, you're loyal, you're committed, you're dedicated, you're straightforward, and you don't typically put up with drama and BS. Then again, maybe when you know you didn't do anything, accusations then won't really faze you because you know You know within your heart of hearts where your loyalties lie anyway. And you'll most likely not stand for injustice either. So if people are sneaky or cunning or dishonest or bad intentioned, you'll probably either call these things out or you will remove yourselves. Depends, I suppose, on the situation and the person, and really if the situation or that person is worth your time. Furthermore, another interesting find is how you get angered by people who don't take responsibility for their actions, and by people who don't deal with the consequences of their actions either. And so in this respect, you're most likely the types of people who don't put up with other people's crappy behaviors. And when people do act crappy and they don't hold themselves accountable, it can really, really get under your skin. And you might also lose respect for that person or for those people. Yeah, you most likely won't let a situation slide until that other person who did something says sorry, or until they see where they went wrong. And it's interesting because in actuality, you guys can be like this towards yourselves. You can be hard asses, that's for sure. Though the last thing I want to mention in this section is to do with show-offs and braggers and people who make every conversation about them. You most likely get so pissed off by people who are grandiose and all about themselves. These people who want to be congratulated and praised constantly, sometimes for no real apparent significant reason at all. See, there's a purpose. There's a quality to your actions. There's a strategy and a reason for why you do things. And a part of the strategy or reason isn't typically to get attention and applause and to get all of these admirers and all of these fans. If anything, it's you who seeks respect for your efforts and for your hard work. You seek to be known as the professional, not as the star. You seek to be recognized for the results of your labor, not for your personality. And so therefore, you'll plan your moves very carefully, very practically, whilst knowing full well that with great power and achievement comes great responsibility. Still though, the goal isn't to be applauded, it's to be respected as someone who knows what they're doing. Though let's actually just move on to the ways in which you get angry. So the question I asked is, are you slow or are you quick to anger? And do you try to control it? Now it's interesting because what I found from a few answers is that you're quicker to anger during your younger years, but then as you grow and as you mature, you learn how to control your anger much better. Though I did find that some of you Mars and Capricorns, you try to control your anger overall, whilst others of you don't. And I also found that you, like most people, become angry slowly or quickly, just depending on the situation. So things like childishness, insults, bad mouthing, pettiness, you most likely won't react, or maybe you'll act cold and distant and uninterested. You might even throw in some sarcasm or passive-aggressive behaviors, not to mention your face will just say it all. But then things like injustice and unfair accusations, you'll probably react more strongly as you make it clear that you won't tolerate such things from others. And you'll most likely be more straightforward and direct. You might also prefer it if practical solutions are made to whatever the issue or the problem is. But if coming up with a solution doesn't feel within your control, you'll most likely just pop off or explode. See, it's you who might try your very, very best to control turbulent and chaotic and riled up situations. And so you prefer to get to the root of the matter, or you might do everything within your power to remain steady and level-headed and just to be more cool. That way, solutions and strategies can be made. Perhaps for some of you, you remain as cool as a cucumber, especially when things become super heavy and serious. But perhaps there's other times when you just flip out and you start yelling in a rage. Again, I think it depends on the situation. Then again, I also find that some of you Mars and Capricorns, you prefer to choose your battles wisely. And I suppose this relates with the whole time is money thing. Therefore, you're aware of what's worth your energy and what isn't. Though essentially, when it comes to your anger, I think you'd rather remain in control, and maybe a part of the reason for why you do this is because you know your limits, along with what may happen if your limits are pushed or tested. And the same could be said about other people here. So if somebody else crosses the line with you, then you're ready for war. Still though, perhaps you prefer to choose your battles as you think about the consequences of your actions. And if you don't, maybe you come to learn about your limits and about the outcomes of any reckless and irrational behaviors. Better to gain control of your anger and your actions than these things controlling you, right? Resulting in things like a lawsuit, imprisonment, a breakup, a financial hit, homelessness, which following on from this point, you probably do think in this way when it comes to your actions and your anger. And during the times whenever you do lose control, because of course we all can, and during times whenever you do lose your anger just for whatever reason really, I think you're most likely going to hold yourself accountable and you're going to take responsibility rather than making the same mistake again and again and again. Now, on the other hand, perhaps this responsibility, it takes time and it's a learning process. After all, when it comes to Capricorn placements, time and maturity and effort, these things all play a major, major role. Though the last thing that I want to mention is to do with your difficulties and challenges surrounding expressing and sharing your anger with others or towards others. You might actually experience some blockages in this respect, and when you do express your anger, maybe it comes across as unforgiving, as demanding, bossy, controlling, authoritative, or maybe it comes across as rigid and robotic and really awkward, or maybe you simply you don't know what to do with yourself when you feel angry. Again though, I think that with time and effort and patience, you can build on these things, hopefully leading to you expressing your anger more effectively and with the intention of reaching a solution. And perhaps also you can do this with the intention of just simply getting things off your chest. Then again, when you are really disrespected and treated unfairly, you might become overpoweringly rageful. And this actually leads me on to the last anger related question, and that's to do with how you react when you're angry and when someone else is angry at you. And interestingly, I find that some of you go quiet or silent when in public, and when you're in public and you're feeling angry, which I definitely relate with this one. I'm not comfortable with the public seeing me in a rage or really angry, but when I'm in private and I know that I'm alone, all that anger just could come out. Though essentially anger and social interactions probably don't mix well for you Mars and Capricorns. Now, I also find the differences between you being angry versus others being angry with you to be quite interesting. So when you're angry, maybe you act cold, direct, or maybe you call things as you see them, or you try to resolve the situation, or maybe there's times whenever you get really, really angry and so you come across as very aggressive. Then again, maybe you tune out the situation when you feel far too overwhelmed. But then on the other hand, when others are angry at you, maybe you try to see if the other person's anger is justified. So you'll remain quiet as you observe and let the other person express their anger towards you. And if you know that you were in the wrong about something, or if a situation is your fault, then you will most likely take ownership of your actions and you'll apologize as you make an effort to work things out. Honestly, I think it's you, Mars and Capricorns, who strive to succeed within conflicts and disagreements that you have. Yes, this can translate into you being stubborn as you stand your ground very firmly, but it can also translate into you knowing where and when you are wrong in situations and then being able to humble yourself. That way you can make an effort to ensure that similar wars or battles do not reoccur. Though I also think that you prefer it when conflicts and disagreements are settled in a just more cool and collected way. However, something quite significant about all of this actually to do with how guilty you become after you discover that an argument or a fight was in fact partly or entirely your fault. So when you mess up, you typically feel shameful, you feel regretful, you feel disappointed in yourself. There's even some of you Mars and Capricorns who try to avoid angry situations altogether, and oh my gosh, when an argument feels out of your control, like it can't be resolved, you know, like you're being cornered, right? Total meltdown. There's no solution here. There's nothing you can control, so it's just a total meltdown. And if this is the case for you, it's better to step away from the situation and come back to it when tensions aren't so high. And if it's something that literally cannot be resolved at all, I think you know when to walk away and when to call it quits. However, that does not take away from possible feelings of guilt and shame that you carry with you during or afterwards. And quite honestly, I think a part of this is to do with your ego, because your ego is like, no, I will not give up. I will not admit defeat. Still, however, when you know that you've seriously messed up, I think you aim to make things right the next time around. And I think you strive to approach things in a more rational, more adult-like way moving forward. Ultimately though, I think you're the types of people who prefer to remain calm in angry situations, and you also prefer to solve things in a practical and more constructive way, especially if that means ensuring that the same thing doesn't happen repeatedly. And if things do repeat themselves, it's about creating a new strategy, a new plan. It's about making up a new rule or a new action, so to speak. And remember also to commit yourself when you do make this new change, this new plan of action. And yes, I know that you most likely will commit yourselves, but try not to be so hard on yourselves if at any time you do fall off track. And likewise, remember baby steps. You know, it's about taking those small steps and building on things little by little. And as I say, if you fall down, which you most likely will, you know, get up there again, get up and try again. Though to be fair, I don't have to tell you guys twice, because you are those types of individuals who persevere, and when something does go wrong, or if you do make a mistake, you want to get back out there and you want to keep fighting. Though let's move on to your turn-ons and your turn-offs? And are you passive or active when it comes to acting on your sexual urges? Now we've got some really fun answers here. So some common turn-ons I find are dominance and control. You Mars and Capricorns may love to be dominated in the bedroom. Maybe you enjoy some BDSM, or maybe you are interested in things being quite rough within the bedroom. Or maybe you like some tugging or biting or scrabbing. Or perhaps you like it when your partner or your love interest dresses in professional clothing. So a nice suit and tie, or a uniform, or in a nice dress and high heels, or in a blouse. Perhaps you go wild for that seductive look from your partner. It's the type of look that says, I want you so badly right now, and if you have to wait a little bit before doing the act, you're most likely willing to be patient. You're most likely willing to wait it out. In fact, perhaps that building up stage really gets you going. Also, you are such sensual and erotic people, which others may not know about you. See, you're not the types of people who share your sex lives with friends and family. Maybe when you're drunk, yes, or when you lose control, or maybe you share these things with a very close friend of yours that you know very well. But typically, you're quite reserved and you prefer not to share what you deem as private between you and your partner. But still, there's many kinks and fetishes that you have that those who know you would be quite surprised and taken aback by. Also, you may get turned on by clean people, by people who smell amazing, by well-mannered people, by people who take a slow and calm and tender and gentle approach to things. And so in this respect, you may prefer common decency. So looking at politeness and courtesy and just basic respect. Likewise, you may be turned on by people who are more grounded and who are more emotionally stable while still being able to tune in with their emotions. Likewise, you're probably turned on by ambitious types and by educational types and by people who have a plan, by people who know what they want and they're willing to work hard in order to get there. Whether this thing be money or a career or social status or stability and security. And if somebody initiates something with you and they make it very clear that they want you without being too eager or full on, yes, big turn on. It's as if you get turned on by being somebody else's prize, by being somebody else's trophy. They just have to work a little hard for it, you know? And you might also be turned on by a little risk, by a little edginess, especially given that you like to play by the rules. So some risk may be viewed as exciting to you because it's like, oh my gosh, this is so not what I'm used to. It's so not what I should be doing right now. Oh my, breaking the rules. And oh my goodness, whenever you are admired, whenever you are lusted after by your partner or by your love interest, it's like, I have the power here. There's something quite sexy about that to you, Mars and Capricorns, I think, of the power being in your hands. And I also find that some of you Mars and Capricorns, you get turned on by submissive types as well, by people who you can dominate, because again, there's power to be found in that position. And likewise, I find that you get turned on by people who perform acts of service as well, especially for you. And this is interesting because you're typically such self-reliant individuals. And so when you do allow somebody else to step in and give you support and help you out, it's like, whew, that may be a big deal. Though the last thing I want to mention when it comes to turn-ons is how you get turned on by a steady build-up and a steady getting to know someone else. So this idea of getting to know the other person whilst working on the connection that you have together within the bedroom. Honestly, I think your bedroom experiences heighten and intensify due to that emotional and trusting and respectful bond that you develop. There's something powerful about having that deep and intimate connection. However, it's this type of relationship with another that takes time and it requires effort, which you're most likely willing to do. Okay, so let's look at the turn-offs. And I find that you Mars and Capricorns, you get turned off by pushy, aggressive, rude, reckless people. By people who are super sensitive, and also by people who are insecure, who are overconfident, who are pompous, arrogant, by people who are unmotivated, lazy, they lack ambition, and by people who are oblivious to their thoughtless actions. Honestly, nothing turns a Mars in Capricorn person off more than someone who is not in control of themselves. Therefore, individuals who are fleeting and chaotic and unstable, no thank you, says a Mars in Capricorn. Now, this is not to say that you don't act this way yourselves from time to time, but when you do, you think to yourself, right, I need to get my act together here. I need to wise up, I need to grow up, I need to own my accountability here, I need to own my shit. I need to hold myself accountable and learn a few valuable lessons. Now, when it comes to whether you're passive or you're active, I find that many of the answers were that of being passive. It's interesting because Capricorn is a cardinal sign and cardinal signs initiate things. They set things in motion. But at the same time, Capricorn energy is a much slower cardinal sign. They're much more reserved, they're much more calculative, and as I said earlier, these Mars and Capricorns aren't about wasting time either. So maybe you are willing to wait things out before jumping in, or maybe you prefer to assess another person's true intentions before getting into a relationship, for example. Not to mention, sometimes there can be an awkwardness towards initiating an attraction that you feel towards somebody else. Furthermore, when it comes to acting on your sexual desires and your sexual urges, many of you Mars in Capricorns like to switch between playing passive and active. Though from the responses, you did say it depends on the situation. Then again, for others of you, there can be a suppression of your sexual urges and desires. And perhaps these restraints are partially tied in with your religious beliefs. And so in this respect, I think you are quite good at self-discipline and self-control, which contributes to things like loyalty and commitment. But then on the other hand, perhaps for some of you, you try so hard to control your sexual urges and your sexual desires that you end up punishing yourself and shaming yourself anytime you do lose control. Still, I also think that with trust and time with another person, you're more willing to express things like your fantasies and your desires and your sexual interests, etc. However, another thing I find is that some of you are just straight up active when it comes to your sexual urges. And so in this way, it's within the bedroom that you truly let go. And even if you're not like this now, maybe with time you grow to learn how to be more active, how to act on your sexual urges and desires, how to pursue these types of things. Then again, maybe some of you prefer it whenever another person initiates these things, because in your opinion, there's so much power within that role. Though ultimately, I'll finish this section by saying that you Mars and Capricorns, you are pretty sexual and kinky people. So sure, you're all business when it comes to your personal goals, but when you step into the bedroom, you eventually learn how to let go and how to act on your wildest fantasies. And this actually leads me on to the last question, and this is to do with what motivates you to pursue your goals and your passions and your desires also looking at what your goals and passions and desires are, and also looking at whether or not you are disciplined. Now, there are some common answers that I picked up on, and that is to do with how you Mars and Capricorns are always working on and moving towards new goals, or towards a goal that is in the distant future, but you're still working towards it. There's always a goal basically that you're striving to reach and achieve. But the thing about your goals is that you're steady and you're patient. And even out of those of you who said you aren't the most disciplined, there's still that drive, there's still that determination, and there's still that desire. So you may move in a slow and cautious way, but in your eyes, slow and steady wins the race, as the saying goes. And so for you, there's no big rush, especially if it means doing a great job. Just following on from this point, you are typically perfectionists and slave drivers, similar to Virgo energy. And you're also quite self-reliant and self-sufficient. So you don't usually ask for help. Then again, these qualities about you can also be your downfall at times, because you can become quite stubborn as you refuse other people's support. And then during times when you do reach out for a lending hand, you beat yourself up for it, because maybe in your eyes, asking for help means failure. Asking for help is a weakness. It's like, I didn't manage this issue or this situation myself, and so therefore I must be incapable. Still, however, when you set your eye on the prize, you make a plan and you stick to it. In fact, you might love that feeling you get after completing a long or difficult task. And this actually leads me on to an example. It's to do with myself. Even writing this entire script for this video today, it's quite a long script, and there were moments where I was hitting these blockages and I just kept pushing and pushing. I kept going because I love that feeling I get after completing a project. And even a similar thing when it comes to a long day's work, a hard day's work that I do. Even after completing a reading, I get that feeling of achievement. And likewise, when it comes to all the different series that I've made on the channel, there's a few going on, and I've noticed that a few of them are quite long, but I don't mind, you know. I don't mind. I do enjoy the process, and once I do finish a certain series or I complete a certain reading or a project, there's that little like yay moment. So it's all good. And quite honestly, you Mars and Capricorns, you are willing to cut out any pleasures and enjoyments if it means obtaining your goals, which is quite admirable. But also, the thing about this is that you can miss out on life's experiences whilst you focus so much on that end goal. So you may be working so much, but then you miss out on family matters, for example. Still, however, there's no denying that when you visualize an end goal, you attack it with dedication and responsibility, with practicality, with loyalty, and with hard work. Whether that long-term goal be a family, a marriage, a career, a project, or a hobby. And you aren't the types of people who give up easily, which is why you are people that give others a run for their money. Though what I also want to mention just with this is how you tend to make matters harder. You tend to make things a lot harder for yourselves. So you may approach things in a more difficult, long way rather than through a quick and easy way. Again, these things can be admirable, but at the same time, it's also these things that can wear you down a little bit. Then again, maybe you have the stamina, right? Maybe you have that drive within you. Though, on the other hand, you are quite competitive people. But it's this competitiveness that's not typically made obvious or shown outwardly. Nor are you over the top and flamboyant and extra about things. You're more stealthy, you're more quiet, you're more reserved. In fact, people might not know exactly what you're aiming towards in the first place, but when you know, okay, this is what I want, you'll give it everything you've got. And perhaps also a part of this is that you see your potential. I mean, I know for me that my dad would make me aware of my potential growing up. He would push on me to do better, and he helped me realize that security and stability are important in life because it's these things that help anchor us. Though on the other hand, there can be times whenever you don't recognize your potential. There can be times whenever you feel as if you're putting in so much time and effort and energy into things to get very little in return for that. So there can be those moments of uncertainty, and there can be those moments of self-doubt with you Mars and Capricorns. And also when it comes to what motivates you, I find that other successful and influential people motivate you, and that experts and professionals within your field or within your profession, it's these people that motivate you. But then some other things that may motivate you include working towards your future, getting respect from others, being the best version of yourself, stability, having a foundation, building a family, money, accomplishment, proving yourself, advancing within your career, living a luxurious lifestyle and providing for your family, your responsibilities, being of service, and of course, power. Though whatever the motivation is, or the goal, or the passion, or the desire is, there's a step-by-step process involved when it comes to you Mars and Capricorns. It's about starting from the bottom and building up, and if at any time you reach a low point, there's something within you that says, get back up and work towards the top again. Get back up and keep fighting. And when you do reach the top of that Capricorn mountain, so to speak, you won't forget where you started from. You will not forget your shortcomings and your failures. And it's this outlook that humbles you and keeps you going with purpose and dignity. Oh, and when you say you're going to do something, you most likely will hold yourself accountable by making sure that you do it. It can take a while, possibly even years, but somehow, some way, you're typically the types of people who prefer to finish what you start. Okay then, Cosmic Warriors, so that concludes my video all about the anger, turn-ons and motivations of the Mars in Capricorn. Now, if you happen to have your Mars in Capricorn, then please let us know what you thought of the video in the comment section down below. And also, again, thank you so much to all of you who decided to take part with helping with creating this video today. Thank you so much. But with all that being said, thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and of course, if you would like to see more videos from myself and you have not yet subscribed, then make sure that you click that subscribe button, and also make sure that you give this video a like, remember, and I will be back with another video very, very soon. Bye!